Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti. I am MrPhotographer.com. Well, we've reached the end of this glorious exercise in processing what I called Photo 1. In this video, we only have 5 images to look at. Then I'm going to show you my rendition of the scene, and then I'm going to introduce a new photo with new rules for this week. Now, we're just going to jump right into it. The first image is from Martin Walters. He used Capture One Pro. He cropped to put the edge of the pier in the lower right third. He created a mask for the sky and moved the color balance for midtones, highlights, and shadows towards magenta to give it an angry look. Used color editor tool to add orange glow to the edge of the clouds. He created a mask for the grass and moved the color balance more towards green. And he created a mask for the post and increased clarity to bring out more detail. So very interesting and nice take from Martin Walters. And the next image is from Fenton Melrose, and he too used Capture One Pro. He adjusted the color balance, cropped the image. He did some basic tone contrast and brightened the brownish grass color. And that's a very nice take from Fenton. Thank you. The next image is from Barry Browner. This one looks a little distorted because it's a little small, 1000 on the long side. Let's see. He processed it with Lightroom. He cropped from both sides in a bit, eliminate the bright clouds. He cropped in to eliminate the bright clouds on the right. I'm sorry. Let's see. Used a haze tool to add contrast to the image. Brighten the dead grass in the foreground. Eliminate anything that distracts, that leads the eye from the part of the image that is most important. And that's it. Very nicely done, Barry. Nicely done. The next image is from Chuck Brittenham. Let's see. Processed in Photoshop, experimented with color and lots of trial and error, he says. Tried different things with Adobe Camera Raw. Used Nik Color Effects Pro 4, the bicolor and contrast color range filters, to interject color into the clouds and water. His goal was to create more drama, depth, and life to a otherwise pretty dull and gray scene. And he did that by adding contrast, detail, and selective color. And very nicely done. Very well done, Chuck. And our last image is from Deck Luck. Deck said nothing. He didn't tell me what he did. But as you can see, it's cropped in quite a bit. There's a starburst added over here. That's usually added with Luminar, but not 100% sure. But that's Deck's version of the scene. All right, now, finally, my version. And I don't know if I mentioned it in any of the previous videos, but when I give you an image to do like this one, I already have it processed. So my processing wasn't influenced by anyone's image. But with that said, I have learned a lot and got some ideas by looking at your processing. So maybe in the future, I would process the image slightly differently. But here is my rendition of the scene. As you can see, it's more, I guess, subdued than some of the other ones we had. What I did is I used Lightroom exclusively. I just processed in Lightroom. I did crop it in from the left a little bit, from the left center. So it cropped some of the top off and a little bit of the bottom off. And I did that to get more, I guess, more of the interesting part more towards the middle of the frame, and to have this edge of snow come out from the corner. I used a brush to brush in some warm tone throughout the brighter parts of the sky and the reflection. And I remember I didn't have the brush at 100% flow. I think I had it on like 30% flow and brushed in the warmth. And then I used another brush to brush in some clarity to the posts. And I remembered after I brushed in the clarity that I increased the highlights and the shadows of the post also. I thought it just brought out the wood a little more. And I added a very, very, you almost can't even see it, a light vignette to the image. And that's all I did to it. And that's my rendition of the scene. Now, For our next image going forward, we're going to work on this week. And I mentioned many times in the previous videos that I totally kind of screwed up this past week's rendition. I didn't think I'd receive so many images. So I didn't, since so many people spent so much time processing the image, I didn't want to change the rules in midstream and leave anyone's processed image out. So that's why I had 6 videos, whatever it was, for last week. 7, I don't know how many. I lost count. But anyway, that's why I had so many videos last week. Going forward, though, I mentioned several times we're going to change the rules. So what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce a new image, and I'm going to take maybe the top dozen or so that I like and that I think might teach us something or look like they're innovative in some way or might help other people with their post-processing. And we'll take those images and I'll have just one video. So every Sunday is my plan to do a video. So today I'm introducing the new image. 1 week from today, we'll look at a dozen or so, maybe more, maybe less, renditions of that processing. I'll show you my rendition of the processing, and then I'll give you a new image to work on. And that's the way we'll work on it going forward. Now, with that said, quite often when we're trying to learn something, a lot of times the teacher will put us in a scenario to help us learn. And even in sports, you probably, even when you were playing basketball with your friends or something like that, one of you would have the ball and somebody else would yell out, "This shot is for the NBA championship." And they'll do a clock countdown, 4, 3, 2, and then the guy will throw up a shot. And if it was me, it usually would bounce off the back of the rim and bounce into the court next to ours because I'm horrible at basketball. But that's beside the point. But the idea is you would be put into a situation to learn something. And it happens quite often in photography too, where the photography teacher will give you a scenario and you have to go out and try to satisfy the requirements for that scenario. And it's a little hard to do with just like post-processing, but I have an idea and I thought at least we'd try it this week. I'm going to show you an image now. This isn't the image we're going to work on, but if you look at this image, this is a totally non-processed raw file. If you look at it, you'll see there's a big like kind of blob right there. There's one there, there's one there. If you look closely, there's a lot all over the image. This happened to be taken during a sandfly hatch. There were sandflies everywhere. It was impossible to take an image without a sandfly being in the shot. And this reminded me of like probably 20-something years ago, is I was doing a wedding on one of the Finger Lakes in New York State, and there happened to be a sandfly hatch. And it was a beautiful day, and the bride wanted her family and wedding pictures taken outside. But there were sandflies literally everywhere. And my assistant that day was my wife, and my wife doesn't care for bugs, but she was a real trooper because there were sandflies on the bride's dress, on the groom's tux. I mean, sandflies were just everywhere. I could not take a shot without a sandfly flying in front of my camera. And the thing is I shot film, and this is 20-something years ago. So it was a film shoot, and there wasn't Photoshop. So my assistant, who I mentioned was my wife, she had to really make sure that there was no sandflies on the bride, on the groom. There were sandflies in people's hair. The bride's mom got a sandfly right in the middle of her forehead. It was horrible. So it's something as a professional that I had to deal with. Now, this isn't just for professionals, though. Quite often, if you're an enthusiast, you're out taking images. You might be on vacation, and you might be in a certain locale one day, and the conditions might be horrendous that day. It's raining, or maybe it's super sunny and hazy, and you want to somehow figure out how to take a compelling image for that day while you were there on vacation. So it's not just for professionals. It could be for anyone. So what I'd like you to do, the very next frame I took was this frame. This frame doesn't have as many sandflies in it. There are some. You can see there's one there. There's one over here. But I'd like you to process this and make it beautiful. Now, I'll put you in a scenario. You were called at the last second by the Buffalo Chamber of Commerce. They needed an image done yesterday, and the photographer they originally hired got ill and couldn't do it. And they need it done today, and they want this specific shot of City Hall. This is City Hall back here. But you get up there on the top. There's an observation tower. You're on the top of the observation tower, and there's sandflies everywhere. So this is the best image you could snap. Now you have to do magic in the digital darkroom to make it acceptable to the Buffalo Chamber of Commerce. So this is the image I'd like you to work on. There'll be a link to this image in the description below the video. It's a DNG file. It wasn't originally a Fuji RAW file. So download the DNG, give me your rendition on it, send your image to the address that is located below this image. It's process@onlinephotographytraining.com. And then 1 week from today, I'm going to look at a dozen or so. I'm going to keep that open. I might look at less. I might look at more of various people's rendition of this scene and talk about what they did. And then I'll introduce a new image. And we'll see. We'll do this for a while. See if people stay enthused about it. And I don't know if I'll come up with a new scenario, but we'll introduce a new image 1 week from today. So, try this one out, see what you could do. For you to really have your image featured in the video, I would say that it doesn't really have to be necessarily different. So I don't want everyone to go out there and try to make it look, like at nighttime or have stars in the sky or make it look so different. But something that I think would help people learn something about post-processing, maybe a different type of application, plugins, things like that. And of course, if you tell me what you did, you'll have a better chance of getting your image in the video. So those of you that just send me an image with no explanation of what you did, I probably won't use that one in the video. But what I will do is on my website, I'll have a gallery of everyone's image. So everyone's image will be there. Now, finally, to wrap it up, really, I need you to adhere to some requirements. You noticed throughout several of the videos, a lot of images look blurry or distorted. That's because they weren't sent to me in a large enough size. I really like the long side of your image to be 2,000 pixels. So whatever program you use to export the RAW file to a JPEG, make sure that the long side of the image is 2,000 pixels long. That way it isn't distorted when we're viewing it and looks nice. The other thing is you really must put your name. I sound like a school teacher now. Your name must be the name of the file. So if your name is Bill Martin, I want the name of the file to be billmartin.jpg. Like 30% of you didn't put your name as the file name, and that takes a lot of work for me because I have to then change. A lot of you put Anthony Morganti's photo or Anthony Morganti photo 1. Some people just hit Anthony Morganti. Not my name. I need your name on there. And some people just said photo. Some people had letters and number combinations. I didn't know what they meant, but really it has to be your name. That way I don't mix it up, lose it, think it's someone else's, and I don't lose it, whatever. I want your name. So please put your name as the file name and send it to me, 2,000 pixels on the long edge, to the address process@onlinephotographytraining.com. And I'm going to set up an autoresponder on that email address so that when you send it, you'll get an auto response letting you know basically that I received it. And then again, a week from today, we'll have the video, and on the website, everyone's image will be there. So thank you, everyone that participated. And again, I'm sorry for kind of mucking it up last week. But again, I really didn't want to change the rules in midstream during that, because so many people spent so much time processing the image. I didn't want to screw anyone over, basically. So I wanted to make sure we looked at everyone's. And now that that's done, now I could change the rules a little bit. And as always, I really do appreciate everyone. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking part in this and showing your enthusiasm. A lot of you have emailed suggestions of what I should do. Thank you to everyone. I really do appreciate it. And going forward, I hope to have a lot more fun with this. Talk to you guys soon.